Welcome back to the deep dive. Imagine this, a vast open plain, and rising dramatically from it, well, this ancient silhouette that's captivated people for literally millennia.
Mhm.
It's so much more than just stones, isn't it? It's this profound mystery and engineering marvel, really, and just a beacon of human ingenuity that has stood the test of time.
Absolutely. It has this incredible presence.
So today we're taking a deep dive into Stonehenge. It's one of the world's most enduring and enigmatic prehistoric monuments, for sure.
Definitely ranks up there.
You've given us this fascinating stack of sources, articles, research papers, your own notes. And our goal really is to unpack its history, its architecture, its purpose,
Yeah.
and how its role has evolved, from ancient times right up to today.
hmm
We want to give you a solid understanding of what makes Stonehenge just so special.
And I think framing it as a journey is a good way to go, a journey through time, but also across Britain itself. Because by weaving together all these different threads, these bits of information from your sources, we can appreciate not just what Stonehenge is, but why it still captivates us, why it draws people in.
Right. So with that remarkable image in mind, let's kick things off with the basics. Location. Where exactly is Stonehenge situated, and what's its immediate context?
Okay, so it's located on Salisbury Plain, that's in Wiltshire, England.
Right.
It's pretty close to Amesbury, maybe 2 miles from the River Avon, and roughly 85 miles, give or take, from London.
Gotcha. And it's globally recognized now, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Hugely so. It's been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1986. It's actually part of a larger listing: Stonehenge, Avebury, and associated sites.
Ah, okay.
And UNESCO calls it an outstanding prehistoric ceremonial landscape, which I think really captures its importance.
That phrase, ceremonial landscape, really paints a picture. Now, what's truly staggering, I think, is the sheer scale of construction. And it wasn't built all at once, was it?
No, not at all. It happened in distinct phases over a very long time.
So can you walk us through those phases, starting right back at the beginning, around what, 3100 BC?
Yeah, that's about right. Phase one, starting around 3100 BC. This involved the initial earthwork, basically a big circular bank and a ditch dug out of the chalk.
Okay.
And inside that, around 56 pits were dug, known as the Aubrey Holes.
Aubrey holes, right. What were they for?
Well, that's debated. They might have held timber posts originally, or possibly even some early bluestones.
Hmm.
But here's something really interesting about that early phase. It wasn't just about construction, it was also used as a cremation
It's a
cemetery.
cemetery right at the start.
Yes, possibly Britain's largest Neolithic one, actually. Evidence suggests up to 150 individuals might have been cremated and buried there.
Wow. That really changes the perception, doesn't it? From
Right.
just an astronomical thing to a deeply sacred burial ground right from the get-go.
Exactly. It adds a whole layer of meaning to its earliest use.
Okay, so that's phase one. Earthworks, maybe some posts, and a major cemetery will come next. Phase two, around 2600 to 2400 BC. Is this when the big stones arrive?
Yes, this is when things get, well, monumental. The massive sarsen stones were brought in.
Sarsens, those are the really huge ones.
That's right. They weigh around 25 tons each on average. Incredible weight.
And where do they come from? Not nearby, I assume.
They were brought roughly 15 miles from an area called the Marlborough Downs. Still a huge undertaking to move something that heavy.
15 miles,
Yeah.
25 tons. Yeah, that's serious effort.
And these sarsens form that iconic central horseshoe shape and the outer circle that everyone recognizes.
Okay. But then you also have the bluestones arriving in this phase, right? The smaller ones.
Yes, the bluestones, they're smaller, maybe 2 to 5 tons each. But what's incredible about them is their origin.
This is the really famous part, isn't it? Where did they come from?
Get this: the Preseli Hills in West Wales,
Wales. How far is that?
about 140 miles away.
Whoa. 140 miles. How on earth?
Exactly. Transporting stones, even 2-ton ones, across that kind of distance, probably involving land and maybe water routes, the level of organization and sheer effort is just mind-boggling.
It really speaks volumes about the people who built it, their commitment, their coordination.
It truly does. Then, briefly, there's phase 3. This is around 2400 to 2200 BC.
What happened then? More rearranging.
Pretty much, the blue stones were moved around again, rearranged into circles and horseshoes within the main sarsen structure.
Okay.
And interestingly, during this time, they dug 2 rings of pits, the Y and Z holes, they're called.
Y and Z holes.
Yeah, but they were never filled with stones. It's sort of hints at maybe grander plans that, for whatever reason, weren't completed.
Fascinating. Like an unfinished project.
Kind of, yeah. And after that, there were some later modifications, maybe around 1800 to 1600 BC, some extra pits, some minor landscaping. But generally, activity around Stonehenge itself gradually started to decline after this main construction period.
It's still just incredible to think about those stones traveling such vast distances. How do we know exactly where they came from? You mentioned the Pressley Hills and Marlborough Downs. That sounds like some serious detective work.
It absolutely is. Modern science plays a huge role here. Geochemical studies are key.
How does that work?
Well, they analyze the chemical makeup, the sort of geological fingerprint of the stones at Stonehenge.
Right.
And then they compared that fingerprint to rock outcrops across Britain. For the blue stones, the unique signature matches perfectly with specific outcrops in the Pressley Hills.
So it's like matching DNA, but for rocks.
Exactly. And for the Sarsens, it was a bit different. They used techniques like laser scanning and analyzing core samples taken from the stones, and they managed to pinpoint their origin to a place called Westwoods, which is about 15 miles north of Stonehenge, confirming that earlier estimate.
Okay, that makes sense. But wasn't there one stone, the altar stone, that tells an even more incredible story about its origin?
Yes, the altar stone. That's a fascinating piece of the puzzle. For a long time, it was thought to be from Wales, too, maybe closer to the coast.
But it's not.
Recent research suggests something far more extraordinary. Its composition doesn't match Wales or anywhere nearby. The current thinking, based on its specific type of sandstone, is that it actually originates from the Orcadian Basin in northeast Scotland.
Scotland. How far away is that?
We're talking approximately 450 miles.
450 miles. That's
Yeah.
that's staggering. What does that imply?
Well, if we try to connect this to the bigger picture, it suggests incredibly strong, far-reaching connections across Britain, pan-British ties.
Right.
It could even have involved, political symbolism, maybe alliances, gift-giving between powerful groups during the monument's construction. This detail is really crucial for understanding the deeper cultural meaning, the sheer extent of the networks involved.
Wow. Okay, so given all this incredible effort, the diverse origins of these stones, what was Stonehenge actually for? Most people jump straight to astronomy, the solstices, but the sources you provided suggest it's much more complex than that.
Astronomical alignments are definitely real and important. It's clearly oriented towards the midsummer sunrise.
Over the heel stone, right?
Exactly. And also the midwinter sunset. This strongly indicates some kind of ritual use connected to the solar cycle. A calendar, maybe, or a temple aligned with the sun.
Okay, that makes sense. But you also mentioned earlier it started as a cremation cemetery, a major one.
Yes, and that role as a burial ground right from its earliest phase is absolutely key. It reminds us it was a place of the ancestors, a sacred place tied to death and memory, long before the giant stones even arrived.
So how do those two functions, astronomical alignment and burial ground, fit together? Is there a newer understanding emerging?
Yes, this is where some of the latest research offers a really compelling synthesis. It suggests Stonehenge might be more than just a calendar or a cemetery. It might actually symbolize the coming together, the unification of different peoples across Britain.
Unification. How so?
Think about the stones. You have Sarsens from relatively nearby in England, blue stones from Wales, and maybe even the altar stone from Scotland.
Right, from all over.
The very act of bringing these materials together from regions associated with different ancestral groups could have been a powerful statement. It could represent the forging of a new shared identity, maybe especially during that period of transition into what archaeologists call the Bell Beaker era.
The Bell Beaker era.
Yeah, a time across Europe around 2500 BC onwards known for its distinctive pottery, but also significant movements of people and cultural integration. So Stonehenge could have been a monument built to solidify alliances, maybe even integrate different communities, a symbol of unity.
So the altar stone, coming from so far away, might have been like a political gift, a symbol of joining this project.
Precisely. It could signify ancestral unity, cooperation between these different groups. It reframes Stonehenge as not just looking up at the stars, but also inward at the social and political landscape of Britain at the time. It's a profound aha moment about its potential social function.
That really broadens the perspective.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a standalone monument in the middle of nowhere, was it? It was part of a larger complex.
Exactly. That's crucial to remember. Stonehenge sits within a really rich prehistoric landscape. There are numerous other monuments nearby.
Like what?
Well, you have ancient burial mounds called long barrows, some predating Stonehenge itself.
No.
There are huge linear earthworks known as cursus monuments. Their function is still debated.
Okay.
Other circular enclosures, technically called henges, although Stonehenge itself isn't a typical henge. And importantly, there's Durrington Walls nearby.
Durrington Walls, what was that?
It was a large Neolithic settlement, contemporary with Stonehenge's main building phase. Some archaeologists think it might have been where the builders lived, or perhaps a place for huge seasonal feasts and gatherings connected to the rituals at Stonehenge itself.
So it was part of a bustling, active, ancient landscape, not just isolated stones.
Absolutely, a whole ceremonial complex. And it's worth noting that the National Trust today looks after a huge area around Stonehenge, about 2,100 acres. They work to preserve that wider landscape context, its visual setting, and ecological value, which is so important for understanding the monument.
That's good to know that context is being preserved. So, okay, the main construction phases ended, activity declined. But Stonehenge wasn't just abandoned and forgotten, was it? What happened in later periods?
No, it certainly wasn't forgotten. Its presence is too powerful for that. It seems to have seen periodic use, or at least continued reverence, during Roman times, Saxon times, and into the medieval period.
How do we know that?
Finds from those periods turn up nearby. And significantly, its mystique starts to grow. Folklore develops around it, tales of giants, or Merlin the magician building it. We start seeing the first sketches and written accounts emerge from about the 14th century onwards.
So she always held on to its sense of mystery and importance.
Definitely. It clearly remained a significant landmark, even if its original purpose was lost to time.
And how has it been protected more formally? When did people start trying to preserve it properly?
Formal protection actually began surprisingly early, relatively speaking. It was one of the first monuments protected under the Ancient Monuments Protection Act in 1882.
Ah.
Then, a pivotal moment was in 1918 when its last private owner, Cecil Chubb, donated it to the nation.
Donated it. Wow.
Yeah, and that led to more concerted efforts at restoration and conservation throughout the 20th century. Some of the leaning or fallen stones were straightened and secured.
Right. The pictures from the past look a bit different.
They do. And more recently, there have been big efforts to improve the site setting. The old A344 road that ran right past the stones was closed and grassed over.
I remember that road. It felt far too close.
Exactly. And the visitor facilities, the car park and visitor center, were moved much further away to reduce the immediate impact on the monument and its landscape.
That makes sense. But there are still challenges, right?
Yeah.
What about that controversial tunnel plan?
Ah, yes. The A303 tunnel. That's the main road running nearby, often heavily congested. The proposal is to put a section of it into a tunnel as it passes the Stonehenge site.
What's the goal there? To hide the traffic.
Essentially, yes. To remove the sight and sound of traffic from the landscape, reconnecting the monument visually with its surrounding archaeology.
Right.
But it's faced huge opposition.
Why? What are the concerns?
Concerns about potential damage to the wider World Heritage Site archaeology during construction, the tunnel portals being intrusive, and whether the tunnel is long enough. It's faced legal challenges, and UNESCO has expressed serious concerns about the potential impact on the site's outstanding universal value.
So a really complex issue balancing heritage protection and modern infrastructure needs.
Very much so. It's an ongoing debate.
Finally, then, let's talk about its modern significance. Obviously, it's a massive tourist attraction, but how else is Stonehenge used or viewed today?
Well, beyond tourism, it retains a powerful spiritual significance for many. It's a central place for seasonal rituals, particularly for neo-pagans and druid
The
groups.
solstice gatherings?
Exactly. Thousands of people, including the general public, gather there each year for the summer and winter solstices, connecting with its ancient astronomical purpose in a very direct way.
That's quite a link to its potential original use.
It is, but there's also a surprising contrast in its more recent history. From 1974 up to 1984, Stonehenge hosted something very different:
Yeah.
the Stonehenge Free Festival.
A free festival, like a music festival.
Yes, a major countercultural event attracting huge crowds for music, alternative lifestyles. It became quite famous or infamous, depending on your view,
Wow, right there at Stonehenge.
right nearby. It shows a completely different yet equally vibrant in its own way modern use or appropriation of the site's energy, you could say. That ended due to clashes and increasing restrictions on access, but it's a fascinating chapter in its modern story.
It really highlights how its meaning keeps evolving, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So, wrapping this all up for you, our listener,
Hmm.
what does this all mean? Stonehenge clearly isn't just a pile of old stones. It's this incredibly layered story, isn't it? It's about innovation, ritual, community, trying to achieve unity, maybe across prehistoric Britain. And its meaning just keeps evolving as a prehistoric engineering marvel, no doubt, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and still today a focal point for cultural celebrations, tourism, and of course, ongoing archaeological research trying to unlock more secrets.
And if we connect all that back to the bigger picture, Stonehenge, with these incredible stones transported across vast distances for purposes that seem both ceremonial and perhaps unifying, it really compels us to think about that enduring human need, doesn't it? The need for connection, for meaning, for shared identity stretching back across millennia.
Yeah.
So maybe the final question for you to ponder is this: what can this ancient monument, built through the collective effort of diverse communities, perhaps teach us today about the power, but also the complexities of trying to achieve unity and shared purpose?
Thank you for watching. This subscribes.